In this video, I want to tell you about the only teacher in my life who truly hated me, and how that year ended with her crying in the principal's office and, eventually, losing her job. So get Komodo, and if you like real school stories and unfair teacher revenge, stick around to the end. Back in 9th grade, I was in an honors English class with a teacher who simply did not like me. Every other teacher I'd ever had might get frustrated with my effort sometimes, but they still liked me as a person. She didn't. One big reason was that she hated athletes missing her class for games. I played 3 sports, so I missed a fair amount of class time. I also missed class for academic stuff, math and science competitions, quiz bowl tournaments, but it was the sports that really bothered her. She made it obvious. For example, she'd intentionally double the homework load for the day after long away games, knowing the players wouldn't have time to finish everything. And funny enough, she didn't check homework every day, only after those away games. On top of that, she graded me in a way that made no sense. She would give me 70s and low 80s on papers that had no red marks at all, while classmates around me had red ink all over their pages and still got 90s. After one paper that I knew I'd done really well on, I asked her why my grade was so low. Her exact explanation was that I was only working at 70% of my capability, while other students were working at 90% of theirs. So I asked her directly, "Does that mean my paper could be better than someone else's, but still get a grade 20 points lower?" She said yes. And to show this wasn't about my actual writing ability, she later recommended me for an advanced writing class a year earlier than students were supposed to take it. So she clearly thought I could write. She just refused to grade me fairly. Toward the end of the year, she offered extra credit. The assignment was to go to a local college's production of Antigone, write a 2,500-word paper about it, tie it to what we discussed in class, and turn in both the paper and our ticket and playbill. The play only ran Friday through Sunday, and the paper was due on Monday, so there was no way to turn it in early. The problem? I was going to miss school all day Monday for a big academic competition where I was representing the school. It was the biggest one of the year. You had to place top 10 in another competition just to qualify. So it was clearly an excused absence. For an entire week before the play, I told her I'd be gone on Monday. Multiple times, she told me, "Just turn it in first thing Tuesday morning." So that's what I planned. I went to the play, wrote the paper, went to the academic competition on Monday, placed first in one category and second in another, and then showed up Tuesday morning at 7 a.m. before basketball workouts to hand her the assignment. She refused to take it. She claimed it was late and that she didn't remember ever telling me I could turn it in on Tuesday, even though she'd said it 4 separate times. Her reasons were ridiculous. First, she said another student who had also gone to the competition managed to turn their assignment in on time, except that student lived across the street from the school. I lived 20 minutes away and couldn't drive. Second, she said I could have had my mom turn it in because my mom was a teacher at the same school. But I'd been told by her to turn it in Tuesday morning, so it never crossed my mind to have my mom do it for me. Plus my mom had her own students and classes to worry about. Third, she said I could have written the paper on Monday evening after the competition, which wouldn't be fair to other students. So I opened the file in front of her and showed the metadata proving it was last saved on Saturday afternoon, before the competition. She still refused to give me any credit. So I lost the $25 for the ticket, all the time I'd spent writing the paper, and my mom had been massively inconvenienced, rushing to pick me up after practice, take me home to shower and change, drive me downtown to the play, then drive back again to pick me up. My mom was furious, and honestly, so was I. This teacher also wore it like a badge of honor that no one had ever made an A on her final exam. She thought she was the toughest teacher ever, but really she just buried students in busy work. On the last day of class, she gave us a few minutes at the end and asked, "What's your biggest wish?" I spoke up and said, "I wish for an A on the exam." She laughed and replied, "Yeah, and I wish for $1 million and not to have to deal with you anymore." Then came the final exam. It was 100 questions plus a 5-point bonus question. The bonus question was the usual. What was your favorite part of the class? What did you learn? Etc. We had 2 hours to take the exam, but anyone who finished early had to wait until the 1-hour mark to turn it in, so people wouldn't be standing up and leaving at random times. I finished the 100 questions in about 20 minutes. So I spent the rest of that hour writing a very honest response to the bonus question. I told her I wasn't sure I'd learned anything because she never gave feedback or comments on how to actually improve my writing. I said my favorite part of the class was it finally being over and not having to deal with her behavior anymore. I mentioned the unfair grades, the extra homework after games, the Antigone paper she refused to accept, and other smaller things that had happened during the year. I straight up wrote that she was the worst teacher I'd ever had and that the school was worse off with her teaching the entire 9th grade. When the bell rang at the 1-hour mark, I was the only student out of about 110 who got up and turned in the exam. On exam days, teachers didn't proctor their own tests. They had other staff do it so teachers could answer questions or manage multiple rooms. So after I turned in my exam, I went outside to wait for my mom, who was proctoring a different test. I was just sitting in the breezeway when my English teacher came storming toward me, holding my exam, tears in her eyes. She told me to meet her in the principal's office and then stormed off. I walked over to the office, and as I waited, the soccer coach noticed me and joked about being surprised to see me sent in there. I briefly told him what was going on. Eventually, my teacher came in with my mom. She'd pulled my mom out of proctoring. We all went into the principal's office together. The teacher was crying, raising her voice, getting choked up every minute or so. For about 45 minutes, I calmly explained everything I'd gone through that year, all the stuff I'd already vented about to my mom at home. The unfair grading, the extra work targeting athletes, the Antigone assignment, the way she talked to me. Finally, the principal turned to her and asked, "How much was the question worth?" She said, "5 bonus points." He just looked at her and said, "Then don't give him the bonus points." That was it. I ended up with a 98 on the exam instead of a 103. I missed only 2 questions. Every other student got those bonus points, and the next highest grade in the class was an 81. She tried to get her last shot in, though. A few days before grades were due, I noticed that one of my assignments from the second week of school, back in August, had been dropped by 10 points in the gradebook. My final average ended up being a 94.4, which was considered a B at the time. I had all my grades in a spreadsheet and knew it should have been a 95.2, an A, but I couldn't prove she had changed it. From the school's perspective, I could have entered something wrong in my spreadsheet. Ironically, that summer the school switched to a 10-point grading scale, where anything 90 or above was an A. So my B turned into an A anyway. Administration also made her get her weekly homework assignments approved by the department chair, and she had to start accepting assignments via email, so she couldn't pull the "I never got it" excuse again. 2 years later, she was fired after other students started having serious problems with her too. Before my situation, the administration just assumed it was students complaining about a hard teacher. My case showed it was more than that. Looking back, I don't regret what I wrote on that exam. She treated students unfairly and abused the little bit of power she had. I didn't expect my honesty to help set off a chain of events that ended in her being fired, but honestly, she earned it. If you made it this far, thanks for listening to my story about the worst teacher I ever had. Let me know in the comments if you've ever had a teacher like this, and what happened. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe for more real-life stories, and share this with someone who survived a nightmare teacher too. About 3 years ago, I worked in a big factory that hired people through 5 different temp agencies, so it felt like a revolving door. New faces showed up every day, and people disappeared just as quickly. Because of that, when someone started stealing my lunches, literally everyone was a suspect. After a full week of this, 6 straight 12-hour shifts with no lunch, I was beyond frustrated. I started thinking of ways to get back at whoever was doing it, and eventually I decided that using Carolina Reaper peppers would be the quickest and most effective way to make sure nobody ever touched my food again. The night before my plan, I made the best steak fajitas I could. I cooked the meat perfectly, prepared all the toppings, and then minced Carolina Reaper peppers into a fresh pico de gallo. I loaded the fajitas into a Tupperware container, topped them with the Reaper pico, added cilantro and lime wedges, and closed it with a clear lid so anyone opening the fridge could see how good they looked. The next morning, I put my lunch in the shared fridge at work. About an hour later, I heard a woman screaming for help from the lunchroom. I ran over and saw a guy on the floor, gasping for air, the lunchbox bandit, caught in the act. The Carolina Reaper peppers had triggered a severe asthma attack, and he had to be rushed to the hospital. He never admitted what he did, and I never said a word about my little trap. Until now.